is how to win with an open banking quarterback. So my name is Evan Hillman, and I'm going to be the moderator today. But before we get started, just a couple quick housekeeping items to go over. First thing, today's session will be recorded. So if you're not comfortable with this, please go ahead and disconnect. But we will be sending out the recording as soon as the event's over. So number two, if you have any questions during the webinar, please utilize the Q&A box on the right-hand side of the screen. If there's any questions related to the presentation, we'll definitely hit on those at the end. And then the last thing, we do have some additional documents. Again, on the right-hand side, you'll see the Docs tab. Those are there for just some additional information around Axway, open banking, everything in general. So I'm really excited now to introduce you to our speakers today. So we have Reuben Piryatinsky, CEO of Altitude Consulting, Brian Otten, Chief Catalyst and North American VP, and then myself. I'll also have a little bit to go over as well. So this is one that we're definitely excited to have a chance to speak with you. Reuben, Brian, if you can give just a quick minute or so about yourselves.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Evan. Go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead, Reuben. Oh, thanks, Reuben. Okay. I'm Brian Otten. So as Evan said, I'm the VP of the Catalyst team. That's digital transformation strategy team at Axway. Been working in data management, banking, probably for about 20 plus years, giving my age away. And most recently working on API strategy with some large financial services customers and enterprises. I've been involved in open banking now for the last couple of years and very excited about the opportunities, but also wanted to give everyone an idea of some of the more overlooked aspects of this in terms of organizations that I've had the experience of coming across. So great to be with everyone.
Thanks, Brian.
And I'm Reuben Piryatinsky, CEO of Altitude Consulting. We help financial institutions prepare for open banking as well as monetize it and launch modern banking experiences that help you differentiate your organization and grow through that. I've also been in the industry for quite a while, just over 20 years now. And for the past 10 years, I've been involved in open banking as well as payments. So really excited for today's discussion. And let's get started.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reuben. And yeah, when we're looking at this, really today, we're going to hit on just a couple quick topics that really kind of bring everything open banking and how to really be successful. So we're going to hit a little bit on regulatory changes, how to future-proof your institution, different ways that other financial institutions are really diving into some of the open banking use cases. And then lastly, just a little bit of kind of how to bring things into action internally. So we'll go ahead and get this started by going over some of the regulatory ambiguity. So this is one that Brian has decided to name the winds of change. This is one, obviously, everybody here has seen that we've seen tons of changes over the last about year and a half. So I wanted to hit on just some of the highlights and then just open up a little bit to some discussion here. So as everybody should know, towards the end of last year, the 1033 final rule was issued and it went into effect January of this year. But very soon after, with the change in our president and some of the other pieces there was a lot of shift in CFPB, and then there ended up being lawsuits filed really towards the end of 24 and more continuing into early 25. And then the spring, most of those proceedings ended up finally happening. So middle of the year, right around May, CFPB had a pivot. So it was, hey, the rule has exceeded some of the authority here, and asked for the courts to vacate it. But then at the end of July, there was more discussion, and now it's been decided, hey, we're going to go through and rework the existing rule, make sure we can kind of talk through everything on a little bit more of an accelerated timeline. And then most recently, we've seen some of the changes around large banks looking at starting to monetize access to data. So Reuben, would love to open this up to you when it comes to all the changes we've seen in what feels like an incredibly short amount of time, kind of key takeaways from what we've really been discussing.
Yes, we're definitely seeing a lot of change right now, and we've seen the direction of the CFPB and of 1033 changing a couple of times in the past 6 or 8 months. So, what do I expect to see right now? I see that that the CFPB is rewriting the rule. Now, the CFPB, we have to remember that they have a much smaller capacity now because a lot of people have exited the CFPB in the past several months. So the actual timeline for rewriting the rule is still remains to be seen. They promised us 3 weeks from July 29th for the notice of advanced rulemaking. We'll see how that actually plays out. The original rule took about 10 years to write, just for reference. So quite a big discrepancy here and quite an ambitious goal. But I do hope that we get clarity sooner rather than later. We do expect to see some changes in the updated rule once it does come out. So some things that were contested were the definitions of authorized third parties, definitions of the consumer. The big one is also allowing fees to be charged for data access. The original rule said that the data access is going to be free. The new one might actually allow for fees to be charged. So that it remains to be seen how that's going to be written and structured. We've seen that some financial institutions, as you said, that have already issued their pricing lists for data access. We might see different, more specificity in the SLAs and the API performance metrics that will be required. So there was some ambiguity in the original rule. And also we might see changes in the data scope that is required to be produced. So all of these things are still up for discussion. Another big one is liability. That one is still a bit of a gray area in the industry. So I'm hoping to see a lot of these points addressed in the new rule.
Yeah, and it's definitely one that it feels like the liability piece, especially, there's questions from everyone from data providers, aggregators, banks, fintechs. Everybody seems to kind of want to understand where that line's drawn for who controls everything. And Brian, I know when we've been talking about this internally, one of the biggest is that obviously regulations change. We can expect that it's probably going to change many more times over the coming years. But I know one of the biggest that we've been discussing with other banks is really seeing that pushing forward with open banking is definitely going to be kind of the plan for most of the larger mid-sized banks. And for some of the conversations you've had, anything else there that you'd like to hit on before we kind of move to the next piece when we're looking at really how to dive into some of the open banking personas, how to handle things internally?
Sure. Yeah, I think we've seen like the percentage of financial institutions in the U.S. interested in open banking and even pursuing initiatives reaching probably anywhere from 50 to 60% now, and that number was quite a bit lower going through the last couple of years. So that the excitement, the strategic move is there, and I think we have to go back to when I think about regulation in my years and working both in London and in the U.S. Thinking about what's the motivation. I mean, the motivation behind the final rule and the CFPB's guidelines around that and the rulings around that is really to protect consumers. I think it was pretty refreshing for people to see what the final rule actually embodied, some of the things that Reuben talked about around consent, the customer's control of data, security, not mandating the use of APIs, but recommending those kind of more modern, more controllable, secure access to data. Those are the motivations. And I think people get wrapped up in like, the punitive aspect of regulation and compliance. But I think embodying that, that means that you will have a competitive advantage. And we'll talk about towards the end of the session today is, thinking about this change as something to embrace, whether it's going to be there in one form or another. I think going back to the heart and the spirit of what the regulation was trying to do means that you could have a differentiator there for your organization, and it helps build the ecosystem as well in a real organic way. So that's kind of what comes to mind for me when I think about the change and the regulation changes that are happening.
Yeah, and even if regulation's not there, the biggest question that we've all been faced with is how do we do it? Who needs to kind of control the initiative internally? And this is where we kind of came up with the idea of the open banking and open finance quarterback. So with that, the idea is open banking and open finance is such a broad initiative that it has to touch so many different parts of the organization. So Brian, I want to open this up to you to kind of dive into how you see that role, and then we'll wrap over to Reuben for beyond that, who you generally are working with once you get past leadership's pushing this direction. Who am I working with from there? So Brian, I'll open this up to you.
Yeah, that's great. It takes me back. Evan, you and I were sitting in Maryland, Washington, D.C. Yep. We were at a conference earlier this year, and recounting some of the discussions we've had. And like Reuben does, we get to talk to a lot of financial institutions. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, I'm wondering what some of my peers are thinking. One of the things that just kept coming up is we would ask, who is really driving your open banking initiative and strategy at your organization? And we kept getting the response of, I wish we had someone. It's kind of falling to this group. It's kind of falling to that group. So we started thinking about it. I don't know why we had sports on the brain, but we're both sports fans. So we started thinking about, well, it's kind of like that in sports. Is if everybody's moving in a different direction, you're really not going to get down the field, right? You're not going to, have a winning advantage. And we evolved this idea of what would we like to have an open finance quarterback that's quite missing in a lot of organizations we were talking to. If you look at this picture, this is over the years, I've kind of talked to loads of different people in these different roles. You can really think about it, again, milking a great analogy, which I always love to do. If you think about on the left-hand side, you've really got security at heart. Everyone's got that as the foremost, as you're opening up, because what open, it's in the name, hint, hint, right? Open banking, open finance, you're opening up your organization. Maybe your company is becoming a data provider in a way that it hasn't really become before to a whole bunch of different providers and partners on the outside of the enterprise. So, people like the chief information security officer, people like security engineering leads are going to be asking questions if you start saying, well, okay, we've got an open banking strategy that's going to open up our systems, provide customer data, provide sensitive data, or even just financial data to others outside the organization. I would think of that as kind of like the defense, right? That sometimes slows down initiatives. It means that people see that as getting in the way, but you mustn't see that. That's essential. And that's part of what open banking solutions are trying to do, is to give a good way for the data sharing to happen in a secure manner. It's all part of the standards and the regulation that's driving those standards. Then you have a whole host of people on the technology side. Now, we all know, and I've been talking about this in terms of API strategy, particularly using APIs as a means of connecting your business for a competitive advantage. These APIs can be thought of as a technical thing, but I always like to say it's a business strategy, right? So the people working in the middle are the ones building the applications, the ones running those legacy systems, right? Because we all have those systems that now need to be opened up in a different way because of our open finance and open banking initiatives. So those people are not used to thinking externally, right? You've got systems that aren't built for providing data externally. So those people have to have a different mindset in many cases in the way that they're architecting those systems and being able to integrate that data, open up that data. Now on offense, you're thinking about, okay, well, I've got digital business strategy people, maybe a digital business strategy executive. We've got heads of business development across the different lines of business. If you're a bank, you've got the consumer, treasury management people, wealth management people, all wanting to get in on this and be able to connect for a customer-centric way of providing that data and providing that ecosystem. So those people are going to be thinking outwardly by nature, but they still have to start thinking more in a product way. So look at all the different potentially competing motivations and agendas, all to be able to open up your business to the digital solution providers and partners like aggregators, the fintech applications that your customers want to use, or the things that are going to fill in gaps like personal finance management for your customers. And it could just be other point applications, things that could really be a game changer in terms of opening a new channel or a source of revenue. We list things like wedding planner. There was one bank that we worked with in another region that opened this up to a wedding planner, and they found that they had an increase of 375% of new account openings just by that one partnership alone. So you can't miss the boat on this kind of stuff, and you're targeting the developers and the people who are doing the connectivity and integration on those sides too. So we thought, well, you really need someone to coordinate and align all of these different stakeholders. That would be your head of open banking finance. Some of our customers that we work with at Axway have this, but it's pretty rare. So what I would suggest is that there needs to be someone who's looking after this. It's starting to get more common, but I would urge, have a head of open banking or finance in the organization who then has the remit to be able to unite and align these people. This is really not an assumption. This is, like I said, something that we've heard, Evan and I and Reuben hear it all the time, is we wish we had that part of the organization that could align all of these people together. And it really makes a difference. Some of the winners that we've been seeing, people who are doing some great things, have this as a function. So I would say don't overlook it. It's great to get your technology in place, the platforming. It's great to get your digital products ready, but overlooking this, I think, means that you might have limited success or limited gains in open banking. You really need somebody who is going to be, or a team of people who are looking after that. Reuben, I'd like your input on that as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Brian, this was a very thorough and elegant description. So I only have a couple of things to add. The first one is I want to emphasize the importance of making sure that the entire team is working collaboratively. And the head of open banking or head of open finance is that one person that is going to be accountable for the team to be well coordinated, to be working collaboratively, and for the priorities to be aligned. So that role is absolutely essential. We see that the most successful organizations are the ones that have the head of open banking in charge. The second thing is that it is also on the same theme. There needs to be one owner for the open banking program. There needs to be one person who is accountable. When there are a lot of teams involved and a lot of different functions, different parts of the organization might have a different understanding of what the organization is looking to achieve through their open finance program. They might have slightly different priorities or might look at it slightly differently. And having this one person and with the team that's going to ensure that everyone is working towards the same consistent vision, and that who's taking a product approach to this and is looking at it on a macro level. What I mean by that is ensuring that all parts of the organization that are impacted and that are contributing to open banking are working in tandem to make sure that all of the products have been updated to support open banking capabilities, to ensure that new capabilities that are being launched are available on the different channels, and to make sure that the different lines of business within the organization are all benefiting and having a clear roadmap for that. This is absolutely essential.
Yeah, and I think that one of the next questions we get once we're kind of going beyond the strategy is, how do we start building this internally? What do we need to do when it comes to API standards, things like that? Axway is one of the members of FDX. I feel like most of the other organizations that are here as well probably are members of FDX, and we want to make sure that everyone is aware of really the work that FDX is doing when it comes to the FTX API as a standard. I mean, it's always being updated. It's completely collaborative when it comes to what other banks, fintechs are saying that they need. Now, when it comes to building that strategy internally, obviously there's going to be internal API structures, things like that. But Brian, how do you see kind of bringing FDX as kind of an additional standard and start transitioning to that more internally?
Yeah, well, we all know, I mean, standards drove the way, things like ISO 222 in payments and settlements and all those types of functions, in just making it easier, making the integration simpler. And I think this is critical. When I showed when we talked about the organizational piece, a lot of the people involved on the system side, the IT side, are thinking about, well, we can't do that with these systems right now. So one of the strategies you can employ is to have FDX or, let's say, internal standards with a set of enterprise APIs as a precursor for doing external data exchange in the way we want to do it with open banking finance. You don't want that to be a blocker, right? So getting ahead of that, using a standard like FDX, even as the way to arrive at an internal standard for APIs, is a really great stepping stone to do it. We're working with a number of banks and credit unions at the moment who are saying, yeah, we don't have that at the moment, but this is giving us a really quick way to actually establish a set of enterprise APIs for those types of assets or data objects, like accounts and transactions, balances, just the basics. Like, we didn't really even have an enterprise API for that. Well, with the FDX core API, for example, you could have that, and you could have that common data model and data exchange model with FDX. The other thing, I guess, would be the security, right, Reuben, is to make sure that you're doing this with FDX has got built-in security consent in its consent API, but also versioning. And I know I've heard you talk about that before, which is another real thing to get ahead of.
Yeah, and Reuben, obviously when you're having your conversations with banks and you're really starting to dive more into how to go about this and some of the readiness around FDX, what else are you hearing there?
Absolutely. Well, one thing is that a lot of the data that is underlying in the organization sits in legacy systems. So, and there are different types of APIs. Some follow specific standards, some don't. So having FDX as one consistent standard levels the playing field, and that organizes the data in a much better way. It's like USB. You plug in a USB stick into any computer and you know that it's going to work. You know that you'll be able to communicate with it. The second thing on the data aspect as well is that building, in order to be ready for FDX APIs, there needs to be often an exercise of data governance and data management, and also building out middleware layers in order to be able to communicate with various underlying systems and with legacy systems, and to be able to serve up that data in a performant way.
Got it. Yeah, and I mean, I think the biggest thing that we keep really pushing through is once you kind of have that standard, you have that API layer set up, and really your house in order. It opens up more of what you can actually do to differentiate yourself, different things that you can do there. So obviously, when we're talking about open banking and open finance initiatives, it could be extremely basic or it could be a huge initiative. Where do you kind of see the starting point and where things go over time from there?
Right. With the starting point, assuming that we've done the data governance and the exercise of creating internal API endpoints. Now we need to think about how to expose those APIs externally. And there are multiple options there. It is possible to build the entire external API on your own, but that's not for everyone, and we don't recommend it for a lot of organizations. What we see is that most organizations actually work with a platform like Axway to build, to leverage Axway's APIs and entire open banking platform that has all of the components built in already that are standard for exposing exposing APIs externally. So that includes security, that includes consent, that includes versioning of the FDX APIs and upgrades with as that FDX version upgrades as well. So that abstracts a lot of the complexity and a lot of the technology challenges and leaves the work of your organization to be focused on the differentiating factors for your organization. So that's the first step. Now, in terms of the monetization side, where everyone is that's a major question for a lot of organizations once they've created their APIs or even thinking ahead of how they're going to monetize it. Just a few things that I'm going to offer, a few use cases, and I'm going to keep it very brief. One of them is account consolidation and smart AI assistants. So over 70% of consumers, according to a recent survey done by one of the open banking technology providers, have expressed the need to have their accounts seen in one place. And most of them would actually leave their existing bank if they don't see this capability and if they don't have this capability. So that's an important one. Another one is account opening. So that's the beginning of the relationship with the customer, and getting it right is absolutely essential, both in terms of being able to onboard new clients and also in terms of being able to fund the account. So that can be streamlined, made a lot easier with open banking. Think of the last time you've opened an account and think of the challenges you had to go through. The next one is customer retention and transparency. So with API-based data access, you now have visibility into who's accessing, which apps are users connecting with to their account, and what purpose they're connecting with. And also, for example, if let's say Reuben is shopping around for a mortgage with a mortgage app, now you have this visibility. And you'll be able to retarget Reuben with an offer for a mortgage or have a better conversation. And the last one is on the same theme, lending. So cash flow-based underwriting is becoming more and more relevant, and we see providers such as Equifax and Experian providing some solutions in that space. All right, so that's just a very quick overview. I know we have about 30 seconds left, so I'll pass it over to you, Evan, to wrap things up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reuben. So again, obviously we threw quite a bit at you, but really we want to make sure that we can give you a couple things that you can really take back and start working through internally. So number one, just keep pushing forward with open banking and open finance initiatives. One thing that we keep hearing is that API based and permission-based data access, it's not going away. So obviously that's going to be here no matter what the regulations say. Number two, stay aligned. So make sure that you have a dedicated and educated person leading the initiative to help bridge some of those groups. And then from there, embrace the standards that are already built. Any way that you can kind of drive into what's already there and expand that usage is going to be beneficial. And again, it's built with input from other members of FTX. And then the last thing is really just start delivering strategically. So whether your initial focus is let's eliminate screen scraping, or we need to come out with 5 new digital products that we can build new revenue, it's all there. And open banking and really ensuring everything works together is a linchpin for that. So again, I greatly appreciate everyone for joining. Brian, love always speaking with you. Reuben, again, thank you so much for being on. We're going to go ahead and send out the recording for this. And again, all of the attendees for joining. We greatly appreciate you taking the time, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Have a good one, everybody.